Hello, fellow Smashers. This is FS Smash. Today, we're going to be talking about some flaws we have with Fire Emblem Three Houses, and we're joined today with Adam from Fire Emblem Discussions.
Hello, friends, and welcome to FS Smash's channel. How you guys doing?
Imagine they're doing great. So for today, we're going to be talking about what we think about Fire Emblem Three Houses, and more importantly, its flaws. Please be warned that we will be talking about all 4 routes, roughly, in Fire Emblem Three Houses. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. So one of the first things I want to cover are supports, mainly talking about the visual flair, the quality of some supports, and some of the voice actors that were in Fire Emblem Three Houses. Do you have any things you don't like about supports, Adam?
So one thing I will say is that some of them drag to the point where I am bored with them and I skip them. They're boring to watch. So like the visuals or the lack of visuals really drive me nuts. If you notice a lot of the cutscenes in Three Houses, it is a flat 2D background that's made to look like a 3D background. And then the two characters just kind of plastered on top of it. And it looks really awkward to me. It looked kind of gross. And all of the supports look that way. And it just looks really, it just doesn't look, everything looks kind of like dead. It doesn't look alive to me. It's not a real conversation or a real moment that's happening. It's this weird fake thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I really wanted that the supports would be, really animated and overall, look good. And you could see especially that there are some things that they really wish to do, and I feel like I know someone brought this up. I don't recall exactly who, but it's basically like that they had written the supports in mind with visuals, but then with the whole time, I imagine that the time constraints, they couldn't do it, so they basically had to put all these images, these awkward animations that really did not fit, especially when anytime a character does an action, it's off screen or it's a slash or it's a black screen, and it's really prevalent. I recall this being my first support. I believe Fernandad and Byleth was my first support I had, and to have it visualized where basically Fernandad went up against 2 demonic beasts, but it was just a picture and Fernandad ran off screen, and then a black slash happened and Byleth saved Fernandad. It's like these supports feel like essentially GBA supports, where the characters just move around in a small area. It feels like that.
Yeah, it feels exactly the same as that. And I don't know, like drawing comparison to Fire Emblem Echoes, which also had voice acting for everything, including the supports. It's just, there was something really charming about the supports in Echoes. They happened during battle, so they were really quick and snappy, right?
Yeah.
And they were really quick. They didn't overstay their welcome. And yeah, sure, it was still, I don't know, the visuals weren't that good, but like you're saying, it didn't feel like there was any a design dissidence where the fact that the characters were just, pictures that are on top of a picture talking to each other, you didn't lose anything as compared to what you're saying with Three Houses. It's, it just, the visuals don't work. Because the story and the supports call for more visuals, but they don't give them that.
Yeah, and I find that with some of the characters, I do not enjoy their VAs. I feel like one prime example that a lot of people have very mixed feelings on are Mercedes' voice.
Yeah, she sounds like Minnie Mouse.
Oh, Minnie Mouse, yeah. But
I love her character to death, and her design is great. But her voice gets me, man.
Yeah, I feel like she strains a lot to get that voice and that. Also I had some issues working around funny enough Dimitri's VA sometimes, but I enjoyed it. It just took me a little bit to adjust to Dimitri's VA, but I generally enjoyed it and stuff like that. But overall, I feel like the VAs did really great job. I guess we can just start talking about class systems and the lack of progression and lack of classes. We did discuss about this previously in another video where we were discussing about the master and advanced classes along with gauntlets and what we thought about them, and I still hold a firm regard that the classes feel very, it's like a large puddle but with no depth is what I can make a comparison with the classes. While cool, do not have. I feel like there should have been more single weapon class usage, single classes, if you will, and that was a mouthful. But
yeah, no, I see what you mean. There is a lot of people talk about I see what you're saying, talking about progression issues with, especially going from advanced to master feels really jarring at times. But I don't know. I'm one that tends to defend it. I think it's okay, because especially since the advanced classes, like honestly, like are usually totally fine endgame classes, especially looking at like warlock or bishop. Like you can just sit in those and be fine, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it just becomes like unfulfilled desire to see the whole potential of having every class use every weapon. The potential of all the new skills that they've added in Fire Emblem Three Houses. Like they did carry over some from Fire Emblem Heroes, but I feel like they could have done more. And I feel like they're a bit lazy in terms of master skills in master classes. But other than that, I thought the class system could have been a bit more. Maybe we'll see in the future updates. Maybe we'll get more classes. I just feel like the progression is a bit jarring, but it's definitely not something that's game breaking or whatever. It still works, but I wish that I felt like an area where there could have been one or two more in each advanced or master to make it feel like a bit more whole or complete. But it's definitely not like, oh, this is game breaking. But there are some classes that are star picks and some that aren't exactly worth trying for.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Wyvern Lord.
Yeah.
Next, we're going to be talking about Divine Pulse. I guess with Maddening, it becomes pretty much important to use Divine Pulse and get as many as possible. As we're in normal and hard, you can practically get away with playing poorly and resetting because you had so many. With this, I feel like Maddening really makes you pick because you can make a lot of bad mistakes and there are way less room for error in that mode. I guess important. I don't know how to describe the Divine Pulse in the Maddening since I haven't, really played much of Maddening, more so just watched. But let me know what you think, Adam, because you're the one that I saw use a lot of Divine Pulses in yours.
Yeah, I know. I use a lot of Divine Pulse in Maddening. Sue me. I mean, in Maddening, there's just like one chapter in particular is the where you protect Rhea, and it's that Ash and what's her face paralog, what's her name, Catherine, and it's like the fog of war and everything. There's like assassins with pass and Pegasus Knights that just keep spawning off screen and like in the fog and everything, unless you like killed the reinforcement spawn guy. But like that chapter, I used Divine Pulse a lot, because like I felt like I had to, because I was just getting wrecked. I was getting wrecked by all these things that I couldn't see in the fog, and obviously it's my fault. Like use more torches, I get it. But I feel like Divine Pulse is a great addition when it comes to Maddening difficulty. But as for normal and hard, I feel like it teaches bad habits to new players in the easier difficulties. Because really, it makes it so it makes the what normal and hard, which are already pretty mindless difficulty settings, even more mindless. You can just kind of do whatever, and it'll all work out in the end because you can just press a button and rewind time. It's like super save states that you can use.
Yeah, in a sense, they were like super save states. And with Divine Pulses, I feel like I tend to use them a lot when I accidentally misclicked or I accidentally put an enemy, one of my units in range of an enemy. And I feel like with Divine Pulse in harder difficulties, it'll be much less room for error. But I feel like it teaches a lot of new players, especially playing on the lower difficulties, that they can if they go back in the older series, like other installments in Fire Emblem, I feel like they're gonna have a really hard time adjusting. And I feel like in a sense, Divine Pulse is good in Maddening, but in anywhere else, I feel like it just teaches bad habits in general.
Agreed.
All right, next on to the villains. Those who slither in the dark and the Flame Emperor. Oh yeah, note that we are going to be talking about spoilers at this point. What do you think about those who slither in the dark, Adam? Like, you think they were just
So my biggest frustration with those who slither in the dark, the twisted people, is that in 2 routes they are taken care of off screen.
Oh yeah, right. I've heard about that actually.
Yeah.
Only in Rhea's route, I know for a fact we had to deal with them.
Yeah, so in Verdant Wind, which is Claude's, and then in the church route, which I can't remember the name of that one.
It's
you actually like fight Nemesis, right? And stuff. Like, do you fight Nemesis?
No,
in church route.
In the church route, if you don't mind getting spoiled about it,
yeah,
you basically go to the underground city that they are their layout, layer, whatever.
Yeah.
And you go there. And when you eventually defeat Dallas and beat him, he decides to nuke the place, and only then Rhea saves you into her dragon form, and saves you guys. But then yeah, that's about it. You just go there because Hubert left.
That's when it finishes?
No, it doesn't finish. There's one more chapter after that, funny enough. But basically, when you defeat Edelgard and Hubert leaves you a message stating that there's enemies here that are actually the true enemies of Poland. They must be taken care of. In a stupid letter, not by person. You have to go kill Edelgard and Hubert in order to get this mail. And then you go there, you kill Dallas. He nukes the place. He almost kills Rhea because Rhea is trying to protect
Yeah, all that thing.
Yeah, and then do you want to know the final map?
Well, yeah. What is it?
The final map is basically Rhea going berserk and turning into the Immaculate One. And with that in mind, it's a hidden fact in the church that all high-ranking church members get a shard, a crushed stone shard inserted into them. And when Rhea went berserk, she, along with a lot of high elite members, go turn into dragons. They become berserk. And you basically have to fight Rhea as the final boss. Like, it's not Nemesis. It's not it's an indirect consequence of, trying to stop those who slid in the dark, and only the leader who had practically no appearance leading up to that point where Hubert gives you a message saying that these guys are evil and they must be taken care of. Otherwise, they made no appearance, as far as I can recall, into trying to take back Rhea after she got captured by.
That's kind of like, what the heck? Like so in Verdant Wind and Claude's route, Nemesis is like awakened because they say like the seal that was like holding him captive or whatever was broken when the underground city was destroyed or whatever, right? So the underground city gets destroyed anyways, but he doesn't wake up this time. Like, little things, man. Little things like that are just dumb.
I do not recall anything beyond that. I mean, if that goes to show that the route was poorly made, I mean, if the villains was poorly made, then yeah, because I didn't really remember much of anything of those who slid in the dark in general.
Yeah, but anyways, back to what I was saying, I guess it's just really frustrating to me personally that it is that the Blue Lions route, so the Azure Moon and Crimson Flower, like, it was literally an afterthought. Like, and especially Crimson Flower, it ends early. Like, spoiler, you kill the Immaculate One, you kill Rhea, and then it's like, oh, and then after that they went and did this. Like, why didn't they just have Edelgard and her team go do that? Why couldn't that just be the next 4 chapters, them taking on those who slid there in the dark, rather than ending the route early? Like, that's probably my biggest complaint in the entire game.
I feel like they traded those like chapters in exchange for having Edelgard be the first arc, I'd call it, of being the first arc villain, aka the Flame Emperor. And even then, the Flame Emperor wasn't that imposing. It was very weird, like the Death Knight. I feel like had more presence than the Flame Emperor, if anything. So, yeah, the villains aren't noteworthy at all. I don't know. I feel like, again, like with the game being out for more than a month, it has been out for more than a month, right?
Yeah. It's been out for it's getting close to 2 months. 2 months,
yeah. But I feel like we can talk more about the villains. I feel like I thought these, I at the first thought of playing it, I thought, these are pretty good. It's pretty good. The villains are okay and all stuff. But then my rose-tinted glasses start spoiling, and then I'm seeing all these things that are flaws with the villains.
Who the heck's Cronian? Why was she only there for a chapter? And why is she a character heroes? Like, what? I thought she was gonna be way more important.
Yeah, same. Especially when she was the one that was supposed to be the spy, the second spy to Solon, aka Thomas, and posing as Monica. It's only to talk to Edelgard about some stupid stuff. I'm not really sure, but
and to kill Geralt for some reason. Like why did she even do that? Just to make Violet mad? Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I keep going off on this. We should probably move on, because I could talk about this for like all day.
That could be saved for another discussion.
Oh, for sure.
Let's blast through these last 2 real quick. What do you think about I feel like the certain maps, specifically talking about how in all 3 routes you practically play the same missions, the main story missions in all 3 routes before the time skip. The only difference is you get sometimes get different prologues, but even then you get some of the same prologues. I feel like that's a major issue. I feel like even before the war phase, you should get different maps based on your house, not just special flavored dialogue and you're solely relying on student paralogs or to pretty much make up the difference that you're playing a different route. I feel like they should have really made some different chapters or different maps or just different layouts, if anything, like different characters play enemies plays differently or different villains. I feel like that would have made it the replayability that much better. And I feel like you'll notice that after the second playthrough. I'm playing through the same map again. It's like the only difference is now you have Maddening, which sure that adds something, but before that was I feel like that was a major issue, and that kind of deterred me from playing the other routes in a sense.
Yeah, I get that. And my biggest thing, it would have. You're right. It would have made way more sense. Like the Blue Lions should have had the Miquelon chapter where they go and it's Sylvain's brother, right? That should have been their chapter. It happens. That should be them. And then I don't know, Golden Deer could have something that happens in Leicester or Leicester, whatever you say that. Dealing with someone.
Leicester? I'm not really sure myself.
I'm pretty sure they say Leicester, the Leicester Alliance.
Yeah, the Leicester Alliance.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
You could go into Alliance territory and deal with stuff with people from there. I don't know. It's just. Yeah, the beginning, it's a slog, man. It's a slog because you have to do the same thing over and over and over again.
And I guess we can finally end it off with what we think about the animations and graphic limitations. I was not really... again, this goes back to maybe support visuals. I feel like they had written a lot of stuff that was supposed to be in the base game, but they just ran out of time. And I feel like that also shows in combat, especially when pretty much all the combat arts, except the multi-hit ones, which are the very rare exceptions, all have the same wind up, the same power, the same swing hit. It's just, of course, being on a different character, different model, different weapon. But I feel like they could have at least made some variety in each, because Rash Strife can be the same as Night Kneeler. I mean, Night Kneeler can be the same as Tempest Lance. They both have the same, turn around, wind it up and then swing. Like there aren't difference. It kind of looks weird, and some battalions running off and all there, and a bit of the graphic fidelity, especially on the battlefield, combat animations aren't as great, I'd say.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, the animations don't bother me much. For the most part now, I play with map animations just because I want the game to go a little quicker.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So I'm at the point where animations don't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
I see where you're coming from, but I guess I'm just used to them now more than anything. But you're right. When I first started, it was jarring with how it just was very stale.
I have talked about my disdain, how I wanted to defend Fire Emblem Three Houses graphics when the first few trailers came out, and I thought it improved well, and improve overall it has, but after a while I'm starting to notice that it won't bug you if you're not purposely trying to look for it. I feel like if you're really one of those people who are keen on having expecting that not the biggest, but one of the bigger franchises, aka Fire Emblem, going on a console that hasn't been on for a long time would have better graphics. But I feel like with Fire Emblem Three Houses, I feel like this could be the ultimate test demo for them. And then when the next Fire Emblem comes out on the Switch, I feel like that Fire Emblem will become the top dog. I feel like with Fire Emblem Three Houses, I feel like it's a benchmark for what Fire Emblem can become greater, and once the Koei Tecmo engine for Fire Emblem, because they use the Fire Emblem Warriors engine. I feel like if the next game were to happen on the Switch again, I feel like that next game will be the best.
If you look at Awakening, even compare Awakening to Fates, and then compare Awakening to Fates, and then to Echoes, they use the same base engine, but it looks prettier and prettier every single time. The next game on the Switch, which I'm sure we'll get, is gonna be beautiful. It's gonna move smooth. The attack animations are gonna look even better. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, well, it's gonna look great. But yeah, guys, thanks Adam for coming on. This is the end of the Fire Emblem Three Houses. Our opinions of the flaws of the game, and I'd like to thank Adam for coming on to the channel. It was a great pleasure of having him on.
No problem, anytime, man.
And on his channel, we will be talking about what we think about, Fire Emblem Three Houses DLC, what we think about the new Maddening mode, and you can check that out. It'll be linked in the description. We'll be putting the end card, all that jazz. I'll make sure to properly link it to you so you guys can watch it after you enjoy this video. So thanks again, Adam, for being on, and you guys again check out his video next. And yeah, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day, and see you fellas much in the next battle.
Bye.
Bye. Mm.
"名もなく咲きゆく」